Joyce.
Alrighty. Well, in that case, then it's 6:38, and I'll call the meeting to order. In response to COVID, we continue to hold electronic meetings. The municipal office is closed. However, the members of the public are invited to participate in the meeting by accessing YouTube, but which doesn't work tonight. So we'll post information on how to hear the meetings minutes verbally, orally tonight. So I apologize for this change. I guess we're about 12 weeks into week 12 of this, so we've had better luck in other meetings, but tonight is our first public meeting, so we'll do the best we can with what we've got. There are no additions to the agenda, so I'll ask for any disclosures of pecuniary interest. Seeing none, then the next item up is petitions, presentations, delegations, and we do have a Court of Revision to conduct tonight. Could I have a motion that Council adjourn the regular meeting in order to sit as a Court of Revision under Section 97 of the Drainage Act, as amended, to consider the Gowdy Drain 2020 with members Councillor Silva, Councillor Scott, and Deputy Mayor Brennan in the chair. Councillor Scott and Councillor Silva, thank you. Any opposed? Seeing none, I'll turn this over to Deputy Mayor Brennan.
Thank you. We'll call this Court of Revision to order. I'll ask the clerk, there's been no appeals to this drainage report?
No appeals have been received.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from the members? Seeing none, we will, the Court of Revision decision, what's your pleasure on that, Derek, Brad? To accept the...
I'm happy to move this as recommended by staff. It looks like everything's in order. We don't have any appeals. I reviewed everything. I think the looks sound to my fairly amateur eyes still, but yeah, it looks similar to any other drain. So I'm happy to make the motion to approve this.
Yep, and I'll second that.
Okay, so the we'll pass the Middlesex Center Court of Revision for the Gowdy Drain approved schedule of assessments adopted by the Bylaw 2020-013 and drainage works as outlined in the report by Sprietz Associate. Moved by Derek and seconded by Brad. All in favor? That's passed. Motion to adjourn the Court of Revision. Thank you, Derek, and seconded by Brad. Thank you. Passed. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I should note that all parties to the drain will receive written notice of the Court of Revision decision, which will contain additional information on the process to appeal the decision of the Court of Revision to the Ontario Drainage Tribunal. We should move now to the adoption of the minutes, please. The resolution before us is that Council of the Municipality of Middlesex Centre approves the minutes of May 13th, 2020, meeting of Council as printed. Is there a mover? Councillor Shipley and Councillor Heffernan seconding. Are there any opposed? Seeing none, that is carried then. Thank you. Item 6 is the consent agenda. The motion before us is that Council receives the consent agenda items 6.1 through 6.3 as information and approves the recommendation contained in the report. Is there a mover? Councillor Silva and Councillor Heffernan. Before I call the vote, are there any questions on any items to staff on these? Councillor Silva.
Thanks. Through you, Madam Mayor. I'm just curious about the Parkland Reserve Fund. It's quite healthy at the moment. Closed at almost $242,000 at the end of last year. I'm just curious. I guess maybe not for Tiffany, but for any staff, what the plan is, what sort of situations we could be calling upon this, especially since community services has their own reserves already.
Tiffany, do you want to speak to the purpose of the reserve fund?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
Specifically, cash in lieu of parkland is a specific reserve fund that's set up, and it's under Section 42 of the Planning Act. So it is one that it is regulated. So a municipality may require, as a condition of a development, that land be conveyed to a municipality for park or other park recreational purposes, which we sometimes do, and you'll see that with some of our larger development agreements. But alternatively, the council may require a payment in lieu of the value of land, otherwise required to be conveyed. And you'll see these in maybe some of the smaller ones, which is what is making up this cash in lieu of parkland. And so those funds must be held in a special account, which is a reserve fund, and may be invested in allocated interest, which we do. So it is a separate bank account, and it gets allocated interest on a monthly basis. But it can only be spent only for the acquisition of land to be used for park or other recreational purposes, including the erection, improvement, or repair of buildings and the acquisition of machinery. So normally, I haven't, since I've been here at this municipality, we have not utilized this reserve fund. That would be something that I would rely on the Director of Public Works and Engineering in combination with the Director of Community Services to put together a plan of when they would like to utilize this fund to present to Council. And it would be approved by Council during the budget deliberations. So I don't know of any projects that are in progress right now. Rob or Scott may be better to speak to that, but that would be the intention of that fund. And this report specifically just outlines what the balance is. This reserve fund is presented as part of our financial statements every year as well. And I don't know historically when the last time we spent it. It normally has just been drawn.
Is there add-on?
No, thank you for that. I'm a little surprised we haven't used it, considering how healthy it is, but I can talk to Scott and Rob about that at another time.
Oh, very well then. We have a motion before us. Are there any opposed? Seeing none, then the consent agenda is approved. Carrying on to staff reports, item 7.1. The motion before us is that the oopsie, I skipped. The staff report motion is that there are a number of transfers to reserves for building facilities general vehicles as outlined in that list before you. Is there a mover and a seconder to transfer reserves to the allocated accounts? Councillor Silva and Councillor Scott. Is there anything you'd like to speak to on this item, Tiffany?
So at this point, this is the preliminary year-end surplus for 2019 year and the recommended reserve fund transfers for the 2019 year. So at this point, we are looking at a little bit over a $2 million surplus. And that information will, final information will come to Council on June 10th when the financial statements are presented. And what we're suggesting at this point is that that surplus be transferred to the specific reserve fund accounts that are noted below. And at this point, does any council members have any questions?
Oh, Councillor Silva.
Can someone add a little bit of color on what other positions in Public Works were gapped? Obviously, Director of Public Works and Engineering, we had IBI group on for a little while, but that's still, a fairly large number. That's definitely not one person. What other positions did we go without that accounts for that?
So with respect to the Public Works and Engineering Department, it was the gapping of specifically the Director of Public Works and Engineering. And then there was a significant amount of savings with respect to overtime that was budgeted, but yet not paid out. So with the change in the policy for the lieu time last year, where it changed from 1 week to 2 weeks, that did save a significant amount of paid out lieu time that we would normally have paid out that banked overtime. And I do believe there might have been a little bit of gapping with some like an equipment operator position, but I'd have to look into it in more detail. It wouldn't add a significant amount, but any of that gapping does contribute to that surplus.
Do you want to follow on?
Nope. All the other numbers made sense, so I'm good.
Okay. Are there any other questions from other councillors? Seeing none, then I'll call the vote on all of these. Then, is there any opposed to this motion? Okay, seeing none, then that is carried as well. The public meeting starts at 7, so we have another 10 minutes almost. Here we are, correspondence items, number 8. The motion before us is the Council Municipality of Middlesex Centre receives the correspondence items 9.1 through 9.10 as information. Is there a mover and second to table this? Councillor Heffernan and Councillor Silva. Thank you. Are there items here that councillors would like to speak to or question? I'll take Councillor Silva and then Councillor Heffernan.
Mayor, you sit on the Lake Huron Water Supply System Board, correct?
I do.
Okay. If you know the answer to this, that's great. If not, we can talk about it after. There's, I guess, a fairly significant, actually maybe not that significant amount of surplus because a lot of it is in capital assets, but I guess things look fairly healthy there. Do you have a broader sense of overall health of their finances? Like, things look really good here on paper, but I guess based on the amount of growth the entire water supply system is seeing with housing and all that, I was expecting a little bit more of an increase in some of the revenues. Do you have anything to? Yeah, on the revenues. The revenues were only up about not even $300,000. I was just a little bit surprised about that. Did you have anything to shed on, or any light to shed on that?
Well, mostly what you're seeing is an agenda item for the June 4th meeting. The presentation, these are draft statements that are going to be presented at council, at the meeting of the board. And so I don't have specific answers at this point in time. The auditors are coming and it'll be presented to us. But I'm happy to report back after the after the board meeting, and give everyone an overview of what it is we're part of and what we're paying and how things are showing up in the books this year. So if that's okay, I'll do that at the next council meeting, the first one following the June 4th one.
Okay, yeah, that's great.
Okay, all right. Is there anything else? Councillor, Deputy Mayor Brennan.
Yeah, that, as I talked to you earlier about the Lake Huron Water Board, that'll be sufficient that if after you have your board meeting, you can bring a report back to us, and I think that'll answer everybody's questions. Thank you.
Okay. Good. All righty. I don't think we've got, oh, yes. Deputy Mayor, would you like to do a county council update now? I think we have time.
Yeah, it shouldn't take me that long. We did have a county council meeting yesterday. This is Paramedic Week. Paramedic Week is this week, so any paramedics out there in the front lines, a thank you for what they're doing is certainly in order. We have the modernization program going on throughout the county, and they've Optimus. Through an RFP, they've got these people reviewing the payroll systems across the county. So they're looking at what all is going on across the county with that, and what they can maybe do to standardize those sort of things. The London Middlesex ambulance service is working with Park Hill Council on building a new building up there for the fire department, and it will also house the ambulance service. So they're working together on that. It'll be a 20-year joint building, and they would sign a 20-year lease with North Middlesex to lease the spot for the ambulance service out of there. It will be owned by North Middlesex, and it's just a standard lease that they do with this sort of thing. The paramedics have a program where they have electronic patient care records with iMedic, and they've renewed that contract for 2020 and 2021 at the same price as it has been in the past. So they're going ahead and staying with that system. 2020 support contracts that the county does with child supports programs, support over 900 kids, child care, libraries, early learning programs that 200 children take part in. So the county is continuing on with those programs. Chris Cheney, the county engineer, reported that SCM collects data on roads assessment management plan for the next few years. Street logistics program application for this program, for a grant for this will be going in as soon as possible. The city and county liaison committee met for the first time in 8 years a couple of weeks ago. They discussed the cost of land, the ambulance, and social housing. And the next meeting for that is to be June 17th. And one of the major questions that the county is going to be asking the city, because the city controls all the social housing money, is where is the social housing happening in the county? We don't see much evidence of that. So they're going to be putting the question to the city as to where that is going on. Fire, ambulance, the question was asked how often fire and ambulance respond to the same call. It's about 9% of the time. Most of the time it's for vehicle accidents, that sort of thing. Some municipalities do medical responses to heart attacks and life-threatening situations where some of the municipalities don't. The question was asked for North Middlesex. North Middlesex responds about 2.8% of the paramedic calls with the paramedics, so it's a fairly low number. We have a strategic planning survey going on right now, and we will be having a couple of half-day sessions coming up on the strategic plan for the county, so we're working on that. The Strathmere Lodge still all the patients and staff were tested for COVID-19, and they all come back negative, which is good news. I raised a question about having a discussion on the farm tax levy in the county, so that's if anybody has any questions about that, they can forward them to me and I'll pass them on to the county. We can get answers when we have that session later on this year. And our next county council meeting is June the 9th is the next meeting. So I think that's about it, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. I just want to highlight one thing that you mentioned about the strategic planning piece for the county. The deadline for your input as councillors and staff has been extended to June 1st. And if you could get that into the coordinator, then they can compile the results and use that for our meetings, which will be happening during the week of June 15th. So it's your chance to speak up and put your 2 cents in and make sure that your views are heard. So thank you for that, Deputy Mayor. I think the only other thing that we have to do before we start our, we've got 3 minutes. We may have to just wait till 7 o'clock, but we haven't adopted the minutes as yet. So the minutes of the council meeting from May 13th, the motion is that the Council of the Municipality of Middlesex Centre approves the minutes of the May 13th meeting as printed. Is there a mover and seconder? Councillor Shipley and Councillor Brennan, Deputy Mayor Brennan. Thank you. Are there any opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. I don't think I've missed anything now, and we've only got to wait 3 minutes.
So I can watch the clock and let you know when it's time to start the public meeting. It looks like we have those that are going to be participating with us on hold here as well. So
Oh, perfect.
we'll just wait a couple of minutes and then we'll get going on the public meeting.
Okay. Thank you kindly.
So it is 7 o'clock.
Thank you. So we are going to now have a motion that council move into public meeting at 7 o'clock p.m. pursuant to the Planning Act 1990 as amended to consider 4 applications 8.1 through 8.4 as outlined on the agenda. Do I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Heffernan and Councillor Scott. Any opposed to that? And that is carried. Thank you. So before we begin, I'm just going to run through the public meeting procedure for our planning applications. So the meeting is called to order. I'm going to be explaining the purpose and effect of the application, and we'll ask the clerk then, Anne, to provide any additional comments received from circulated agencies and the public not included in the planning report, if any. The planner will give an explanation of the application and present the staff report. Then the applicant and or their agent has an opportunity to speak to their application. Any public that have requested to participate in the meeting electronically will be asked for their comments. Public participants will be unmuted and will then be able to speak when called on by the chair. Please ensure that you state your name and address so that your information can be reflected in the minutes. Speaking notes of those who have asked to participate have already been provided to council for their information and consideration. At that point then, council may ask questions of the applicant and or staff, and then we will take motions considering the applications that have been presented. Please note that there's a 20-day appeal period from the date of notice of the decision to allow for appeals against the council's decision, and that if any members of the public or the applicant have any questions about the appeal process, they may contact our clerk, Anne Wright. If anyone wishes to receive further notification on any of the applications being heard tonight, I ask that you please send an email to planning@middlesexcentre.on.ca requesting further notification, provide your name and mailing address, including postal code. Also, please be advised that comments expressed and written material presented are a matter of public record for full disclosure. So the first item up, 10.1, is zoning bylaw amendment 05-2020. The applicant is David Crossan and agent is Penny Crossan. The purpose and effect of this zoning bylaw amendment is to rezone a remnant parcel of a farm parcel from the agricultural A1 to the agricultural no residence A3 zone, and a proposed non-farm parcel from the A1 to the surplus SR zone. This is related to an application for consent B18/19, which was conditionally granted subject to, amongst other matters, an approved zoning bylaw amendment. So no other comments were received by the clerk that are not included in the planning report. Marion is going to now give the review of the planning report. Marion, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So as said, as the Mayor had mentioned, this application is in order to fulfill a condition of consent for the land at 10125 McEwen Road. This is as a result of the surplus farm dwelling severance that created the two lots, the retained farm parcel and the surplus residence lot. So as a result of the severance, provincial policies and local policies seek that agricultural lands are preserved for long-term agricultural use. Therefore, the rezoning to agricultural no residence will prohibit any new residences to the retained parcel, and also recognize the undersized farm parcel size, and the severed land will be rezoned to the surplus residence zone. The application was circulated internally to municipal staff as well as the Conservation Authority, and they have no concerns with this application. Therefore, planning staff do recommend that this application is approved, as it is consistent with all applicable policies and bylaws.
Thank you. At this point, Penny Crossan, who is the agent, the applicant's agent and participating electronically. Are you there, Penny?
I don't believe that Penny has joined us.
Okay, we can come back if you see her come on, is that correct?
Yep.
Okay.
You just go ahead. They do
Okay.
know that if they haven't joined us, then we will go on with the application.
Okay. And there are no other public members?
No
who
other
want to
ones.
speak?
Nope.
Very well. Does anyone on council then have any questions of the applicant and or staff? Seeing none, we can continue to the motion then?
Yes.
Very well. The motion before us is then that zoning bylaw amendment applications at BA 05-2020 filed by Ms. Crossan on behalf of David Kenneth Crossan for the severed and retained lands of the consent application B18/19 in order to implement the severance of the surplus farm residence be approved. Are there, a mover and a seconder? Sorry, yes, all in favor. And that is carried. Thank you. All right, moving to 8.2, planning 10/2020 zoning bylaw amendment 620 for 10/835 Gold Creek Drive. And the purpose and effect of this zoning bylaw amendment is to rezone the subject property from Hamlet Residential First Density Exception 1, HR 1-1, to a new site-specific Highway Commercial Exception 17, C2-17, to permit a self-storage establishment and other uses within the Highway Commercial C2 zone. In addition, the site-specific zone would recognize zoning standards for setbacks and parking to permit the development. There were no other comments that were received by the clerk that are not included in the report. And again, if I could ask our planner to give a review of the planning report, please.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So as the Mayor had mentioned, this is a rezoning from the Hamlet Residential Zone to a site-specific Highway Commercial Zone in order to permit the self-storage establishment. In addition to this use, all other uses within the Highway Commercial Zone would also be permitted. So this lot is approximately 0.4 hectares in area and is located at the corner of Gold Creek Drive and Egremont Drive. It's currently vacant. However, there was a single detached residence that was previously on the property and was demolished in 2019. The land is located in the local hamlet and abuts an existing farm directly to the north, and an existing residence is directly to the east. Within this immediate area, there are other residential and commercial uses within the hamlet area, and of course, agricultural lands to the west and to the north of the property. So the hamlet policies within the official plan permit a variety of uses, including commercial, industrial, residential uses, as long as they are compatible and have acceptable servicing standards. So the self-storage establishment is typically considered within the bylaw in agricultural or highway commercial zones, but it is not permitted as of right in any zone within the zoning bylaw. Therefore, the requested site-specific zone would permit the use, in addition to recognize the deficiencies in the parking standards and the setbacks from Egremont Drive and from Gold Creek Drive. To go into the proposed facility just a little bit, in attachment 2, you will see a draft site plan. This development would be subject to site plan control that's currently under review. You will see 2 long buildings that are roughly parallel to Egremont Drive with drive-up storage lockers. There will be an office and washroom facility on the site as well. And the proposed building would be a maximum of 1 story in height. Additionally, the setbacks and the buffered area would be against the residential zone that's abutting to the east. And this is all in accordance with site plan standards. So this application was circulated to municipal staff with no concerns about the rezoning. However, they would provide detailed comments through the site plan control process. Similarly, the county engineer had reviewed the application and advised that no access will be granted off of Egremont Drive directly, and more detailed comments would be provided through site plan control. The Conservation Authority also reviewed the application and didn't have any concerns with it. So this application is generally supported by local and provincial policies to permit the redevelopment of the land and to support commercial uses in settlement areas. The use is limited in scale, will have sufficient servicing for the office and the washroom, and is similar to or less intrusive than some of the existing commercial uses within this area. The requested setbacks can be considered appropriate in order to accommodate the use and the buildings on the site, as the proposed driving aisles between the 2 buildings are required to make the site functional and to allow emergency vehicles to access the property as well. With regard to the abutting residents directly to the east, fencing, landscaping, and the required setbacks are all measures that will be taken to mitigate impacts from this development. So as a result, planning staff note that this application is consistent with applicable policies and is appropriate for the land. As mentioned, this development is going through the site plan control review process. Therefore, it's recommended that the amendment be approved.
Thank you for that report then. Mr. Doyle is on the line. Would you like to participate and speak to the application? Have we lost Mr. Doyle?
Oh, we have him here. He's not muted.
No.
Okay.
There's no response.
No.
I could move on to we could come back to him.
We do have our member of the public with us.
Yes, Mr. Delaney, I'd invite you to speak to this application.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good. Okay, so generally I don't have huge opposition to this this new building they're going to put up. I do have a few questions though. This is my first crack at this ever, so forgive me if I don't sound like I don't know what I'm talking about. That's because I don't. Anyways, my biggest concern is if the zoning is approved, can the proposal of what is supposed to be built be changed? Like I heard, you know, there's a C2 zoning and other, how did you word that? Other
Commercial, something.
types of commercial zoning.
We'll get the planner to respond to you, all right?
Okay.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor, the proposed zoning or the requested zoning by the applicant is for the self-storage establishment and all other uses in the highway commercial zone. The council can make a decision to reduce some of those uses if they find that that's appropriate, or they can remain on the property. So to answer your question a little bit more specifically, a self-storage establishment could be permitted on the property if they decide to permit any other, or sorry, develop any other permitted use that would be acceptable. And of course, this would all be going through site plan control as well.
Is
So,
that clear?
so something else could conceivably be built there.
Yes, that is correct, as long as it's a permitted use within the highway commercial zone.
So where could I get a list of that?
Sure, so it is available in our zoning bylaw, and I can send that to you directly offline.
Okay. So yeah, like I say, I'm not opposed to the storage buildings, but I mean, if somebody's coming in there and putting in a body shop, auto body shop, or you know, he's got a construction business and he's got heavy equipment. There's some safety issues there. I think it would, you know, it would just damage my property value and so on. So that's kind of my main concern. So I guess I'll have to have a look at those other zoning if I was, because there might be things that I would be opposed to. So how does that work? Do I get notified if there's a change?
Marion, do you want to go through the process in terms of, I guess at this point, it would be the appeal, if the answers come back to be offensive in some way.
Through you, Madam Mayor, that's correct. If it is, if Mr. Delaney has concerns with the permitted uses on the property, he can have the opportunity to appeal the decision of council within the 20-day appeal period that comes after this meeting, assuming that there is approval on this matter. That is one option to do that.
Is that okay, Mr. Delaney?
Yeah, I guess so. I just don't, so after this meeting tonight, you know, and the zoning's changed, and the owner of the property then decides he wants to put something else up, do I get to participate in a meeting like this again?
Through you, Madam Mayor, if the proposed use that's different from the self-storage establishment is permitted on the property, typically it would just go through the site plan control process. Normally these are not public processes. In very exceptional circumstances they are. But I don't know if Dan, you wanted to respond to that as well?
Thanks, Marion. With respect to the general question, so any use conceivably permitted in the requested zone, so C2 highway commercial, could be established on the lot. And once the zoning's in place, technically speaking, site plan is not a public process, so there would be no appeal avenue for the individual once the zoning is approved and in place.
So once this meeting's over tonight, he gets a zoning, he can put whatever he wants within the guidelines of what's permitted to be there. And I wouldn't even know about it. Is that what I hear you saying?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. Technically speaking, that is correct. If the zoning's in place and the uses are permitted on the lands, there would be no additional public process when it came to approving the actual function of the land through the establishment of a commercial business. If maybe I can further add to that, if there is concern from council of the list of uses that are included in the C2 zone, there is the possibility or recommendation that you could consider specifically only adding one specific use through site-specific exemption through the C2 zone.
Yeah, so I mean, my fence, my backyard, my pool, it's going to be right next to that. And I think there's not so much for the storage, but if it's something else where there's equipment or a body shop, that's definitely going to bring the value of my property down. And like I said, I'd have safety concerns about it. And I would want to speak to that if that were to happen. But what I hear you saying is you can't tell me one way or another. Well, I guess I hear what you're saying is I can't do anything about it at that point. Right?
Through you, Madam Mayor, that's correct. If the zoning's in place, then any use permitted in that zone would be able to be constructed on the lands.
So, wow.
So then why is he saying he's going to do those buildings?
Through you, Madam Mayor, maybe I just clarify one point. There's a number of uses listed in the C2 zone that would most likely require some level of servicing to support that use. So there may be uses that are listed on the C2 zoning that could not be supported on the lands based purely on the fact that they are unserviced at this point in time.
What's that?
Why is he proposing this?
No, it's just a proposal. That's all it is, right? It's not saying he's going to go ahead. He can change it.
Okay, so.
So that you're saying that's approved by you then? The public has no part if he changes. He wants to put an auto body shop in there. I have no say, correct?
Through you, Madam Mayor. So through the site plan process, that would be effectively, if the zoning's in place, there would be no additional means for you to appeal a use of the property that would be permitted. That's correct.
Okay, so how can I mean, what's the process then? I do an appeal then? Like if I don't know what's going on there.
Madam Mayor, if I can interject, Mr. Delaney, through the chair. If Mr. Dole, the applicant, is on the line, it might help if we could maybe have him come on the line, provide an explanation of his intent to use the property in accordance with the C2 change. And then if Mr. Delaney has any further questions, we can maybe be in a better position to answer those questions therefore. And then we can also provide an overview of what the notice process looks like once a decision is made.
Very well. Mr. Joel is on the line now. Can you hear us?
Yes, I'm here. How are you this afternoon?
Oh, well, we're getting used to this. Yeah, would you like to do a little presentation and maybe speak to the application and your plans?
Absolutely. So to address concerns from Tom there, basically we had a good thorough meeting with the staff in at Middlesex, and I can reassure Tom that we're not interested in investing in any sort of auto body type, or I don't necessarily think the Hamlet needs another car dealership myself, but that might be out for opinion somewhere else. We have no interest in that. We solely, have looked into some low profile buildings that fit in with the setting of the hamlet and, ranch style homes that bring more value and not some kind of commercial looking oddball structure that doesn't really fit into the hamlet use. So these buildings on the plan are well suited to appease the aesthetics and the neighborhood. So we don't intend on having any other use for construction purposes. Anything outside of the storage facility that's proposed is what we're going to follow through with. It's been well adhered from the general village, and definitely interested in helping Tom there with any concerns that he has to go through the finer details of how things are going to work over there. All the drainage is going to be kept on the property and self-contained. Nothing will run off to meet the stormwater management plan. We have a nice low profile 9 foot and change, maybe 9'6" eave building. Looks like a ranch style home. We're going to have some probably lights mounted on the buildings. Nothing that's going to be up like a football stadium style light won't be permitted there. We don't want to have that. It's too invasive. We want to keep in mind the neighborhood and the people that live there that have created the neighborhood. So that's our cause and effect for bringing something new to the hamlet and trying to revitalize the highway a little bit there.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dole. Is there any further question that you might want to ask Mr. Delaney?
Not off the top of my head. I mean, if Mr. Delaney wanted any further confirmation that it would be strictly proposed, what's proposed would be followed through with, that is my full intent. So I willing to work with him and make sure that nothing is affected in regard as his jurisdiction of his property.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dole. So, Mr. Delaney, did you have another question of any kind that you wanted to clarify?
Not really. I mean, it's just his word, right? I'm kind of in a catch-22. It's his word, but I mean, he can change it.
Right.
So if I didn't want, say, a type of business in there that would affect my property value and the safety of my grandchildren and so on, I either have to take his word for it or just oppose this whole thing, right?
Okay, I'll ask the council then to ask questions that they may have. Are there members on council who have? So I have Councillor Heffernan and Councillor Silva and Deputy Mayor Brennan and then Councillor Shipley. Okay, so we'll start with you, Councillor Heffernan. You're on mute.
Okay,
there you go.
I found it.
Okay, all yours.
Okay, 2 questions. The first one is through the mayor to Marion, I guess. The setbacks are set like there's quite a difference in the setback. For example, it's the setback rule is 125 feet, but it looks like it's only 44. Now, is that just for Egremont, or what about the setback between Mr. Delaney's property and this property?
So the setback specifically to Mr. Delaney's property is what the minimum is as dictated by the zoning bylaw. So none of that will change. The requested rezoning would only affect the setbacks to Egremont and to Goulds Creek, and it's actually pushing it a little bit closer to those streets. However, municipal staff and the county engineer have both reviewed those setbacks to the roads and are acceptable to those standards. And I'm not sure if Dan wanted to add in to that.
Yeah, thank you through the chair to Councillor Heffernan. The existing zone requires a minimum interior side yard setback of 6 meters. So based on that, the development would have to be at least 6 meters from that east property line to the actual building.
Okay.
Follow up?
Thank you. My second question was for either Marion or Dan. Do you have examples of the C2 zoning that's would be allowed in a commercial setting that fit in with this C2? I know you've said there's a list, but I'm just wondering if, off the top of your head, you know some of the items that are on there, just to kind of relieve some concerns.
Through you, Madam Mayor, actually, I can put up the zoning to the screen if that will help. Okay, if not, I can just list them off very quickly. So the C2 zone is also existing already in the Logo Hamlet area, just a few lots down from this proposed or this site. Some of the uses include animal clinic, building supply establishment, car wash, financial institution, garage, gas bar, hotel, motor vehicle, service establishment, nursery, any office, restaurant, service shop, or retail stores or studios. So that's a very high level list, and then it kind of goes into the particulars of retail stores or types of offices that are permitted, but that's an overall list of some of the permitted uses within the highway commercial zone.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Silva, I believe you were next.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Mr. Delaney actually sent through a bunch of questions earlier. Sounds like he only asked one of them during the meeting. Did he get responses to the other ones, concerns around snow storage beside the existing fence that abuts his property, dry hydrants, things like that?
I didn't get answers, no. But yeah, I did look up what those for what do you call it? Fire?
Dry hydrant?
Oh, hydrant? I thought it was some sort of well that fire trucks pulled water out.
It's called the dry hydrant. Yeah, I did some research. I wanted to make sure you did some research or you got an answer about that. I do have, to some of the points Mr. Delaney made in his speaking notes. Some are concerns I have as well. Snow storage right beside his fence. As much as I don't want to make it.
Maybe we'll just let the planners respond to the questions. I think you have them as well. If you just want to go through and provide those then. I don't know, is it Marion or Dan?
So I'll let Dan answer some of these questions as he's reviewing the site plan applications specifically.
Okay, if you just want to quickly walk through those, then Dan will get answers and then that'll solve that problem.
Yeah, sorry, just it's bedtime at my house and we have some upset children, but I apologize for that.
Well,
Just waiting for my email to pull up here.
Snow storage right up against the Mr. Delaney's fence.
Okay, so with respect to, this first question, snow storage right up beside the fence. The grading plan shown on the servicing drawings does show a sloping grade from Mr. Delaney's property down into Mr. Dowell's property. So any snow storage that is piled up in that area would drain back into Mr. Dowell's property.
Okay.
Sorry,
There were a number of questions.
We got for this meeting.
Sorry,
I
I missed
didn't
that.
I don't recall seeing any grading plans.
Sorry, this is a question about snow that you had and the list of questions. Dan, did you want to finish up that list? I think that was Councillor Silva's question about the items on it.
Yeah, sure. So maybe just to go back and speak to Mr. Silva's question. So the grading plan is specific to the site plan application. It's not shown with the amendment application. Or I'm not sure, maybe Marion can clarify if it was provided but just kind of giving you a high level overview. With regards to the proposed dry fire hydrant at the fence line, Arnie can probably speak better to that. However, my understanding is it's basically an underwater tank that holds water for the purposes of pumping requirements if there is a fire. So it's like basically an underground storage tank for water. Are the buildings being built all at once or in stages? I would defer to the applicant to answer that question. Lighting on the property, the applicant hasn't provided a lighting or a detailed lighting plan at this time, so I wouldn't be able to comment on that one. I would ask, so they've also asked questions about drainage on the property. I would defer to Rob if he could speak to drainage on the property. However, I believe the drainage plan is still under review with our engineering group. And the last question was with regards to can the proposal of what is supposed to be built there be changed? So we had previously addressed that.
Right. So would you like to answer or speak to the drainage piece, Rob?
I think my video's on there now. Today we've seen what I call a draft grading plan, right? I mean, it's more than just a concept. It's based on the current site plan. And we did provide some comments back, but generally the grading plan is complete to the site plan as it exists right now, and the intent with the design of the grading is to control the runoff on the site to a series of catch basins and swales, really directing the water to the west, and then I believe there is some infiltration area as well to go along with that. So certainly right now the site plan, the grading with the existing site plan, there should be no concerns with runoff off the site to the adjacent properties.
Okay, thank you. Arnie, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, certainly through the mayor. The Ontario Building Code does have requirements for adequate water for firefighting to be on site. So there are storage tanks, storage tanks, and if that's needed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about everyone else. I heard you were quite broken up there for a minute. You're talking about tanks?
Yes. The building code has a requirement for water storage tanks for firefighting. There are storage tanks on site or proposed on site, and they would be connected to dry hydrants that the fire department could pull from in the event of a fire.
Thank you. That was perfect. Okay, I think that was the whole list then. We've covered the staff clarification of some of the items, I think.
I just want to say that while obviously I understand that this is a zoning meeting, I want to echo Mr. Delaney's concerns around once zoning's approved, any applicant, regardless of Mr. Dole's ethics, can change significantly what they propose to build from after zoning's approved. And I just want to say that this whole process is flawed. I'll take it offline. I'm not going to belabor the point, but I don't like how the site plan control process doesn't involve anybody else. It involves staff. Council sees it on a meeting agenda. It gets approved or denied. It's definitely not ideal because most concerns that people actually have are outside of the zoning process. They're actually in site plan control.
Okay, thank you then. Deputy Mayor Brennan, you were next.
Yeah, just very quickly, we do have the option, do we not, that if we want to make it more site specific, what can go on there, we can eliminate some of the possibilities that can be put there. We can narrow that in. And if Mr. Dole is set on storage, we could say strictly it's just for storage and a storage system and just pass it that way. Could we not? I'm not sure if we can do that or not. If we want to get it that narrow and just say, Mr. Dole says he wants storage buildings, Mr. Delaney's happy with that. If we were to pass simply that, I think everybody would be happy, but I'm not sure if we can do that or not.
Planners?
Through you, Madam Mayor, that is correct, Deputy Mayor. If council decides that they want to par down the list of permitted uses within the zone, they can do so, remove some, amend some, or also just permit the self-storage establishment, and that would be a possibility. Keep in mind that it was requested to have all permitted uses plus the self-storage establishment on the property, but council does have the ability to narrow down that scope in their decision.
Okay, thank you. Follow on? Okay, if there's none from the Deputy Mayor, then Councillor Shipley, you were next.
Yes, through the mayor to Arnie, and I've just spoke briefly to the fire chief prior to the meeting, Arnie. Proposed dry hydrants, is there 2 tanks in the ground? Like you got one at the back and one at the very front. Just wondering how you're going to handle that.
Sorry. Through the mayor, it is part of the design. I believe there are 2 hydrants significantly separated from each other on the site. Honestly, I don't recall if they're drawing from the same tank or separate tanks, but their engineering team has designed it so they meet the right water capacity that the building code requires.
Okay, and just the other thing I'm concerned about, Arnie, oh, sorry, go ahead, Colin.
No, do you have a follow? Continue, Councillor Shipley. I was just asking if you had a further question.
Oh, sorry, yeah. The only concern I've got is that's where your snow storage is also, right beside the dry hydrants. I'm not how well that's going to work in the middle of January.
They'll have to maintain the site so the hydrants are accessible.
Okay, I don't know. Colin, are you there? Do you want to jump in on any of this, or?
Yeah, for sure. Through you, Mayor. Yeah, I agree with Arnie. It looks to me, I believe there are 2 separate reservoirs for that initial attack. And it would be, the onus would be on the owner to maintain that. In my experience, so I have seen the snow control get a little bit out of hand. So that would definitely be something that the owner would have to keep on top of.
Okay, thank you.
Rob.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just looking at the site plan, and I will confirm that there are 2 separate tanks. So there's a hydrant near each tank. They are not interconnected, but they are both connected to the buildings.
Thank you for that then. Seeing no, Councillor Art. Yes, I see you.
Okay, I kind of agree with Deputy Mayor Brendan. Can we just approve this for self-storage, and if the owner wants to change, then it's got to come through us again then, correct?
Is it Marion or Dan?
Sure, through you, Madam Mayor, that's correct. If you wanted to just permit the self-storage establishment, that would be reasonable. And any other permitted uses on the site, the applicant would need to come back for another zoning bylaw amendment. And again, that would be another public process.
Very well. Are there any other questions from council? Then we have a motion before us. What is your wish? Marion, can we change the wording to that specific change right now at this and make the motion for that?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I believe you can. I'll just defer to the clerk to determine how to amend that motion.
So, Madam Clerk, would you be able to suggest the wording to make it more specific?
I'm just looking at the resolution as it was recommended here. And the resolution as it stands is the purpose and, oh, that's the purpose and effect. Just 1 second
Let
here.
me delete the other uses within part. Would that do it? So it would be
So the
to permit a
resolution as it
self-storage.
stands right now is to rezone the property from Hamlet Residential First Density Exception 1, HR 1-1 to Site-Specific Highway Commercial Exception 17, C217 zone to permit a self-storage establishment. So Marianne, I just want to get you to clarify. So in this resolution, it's specifically talking about a self-storage establishment. Does this exclude the other that you had mentioned, or how would you like to reword this recommendation?
Through you, Madam Mayor, the intent was to include all the permitted uses within the highway commercial zone. However, if you did want to amend it, you could add to permit a self-storage establishment only, and then we can revise the bylaws that would come out of this, or just to add wording that would make it very specific. That would just be self-storage establishment permitted.
Okay, so that seems simple enough. We can amend the resolution to include the word only, and then we'd have to pass the bylaw later on as amended.
So at this time, we don't call a vote on this?
Nope, we would call a vote on this now and
amend the wording after.
Yeah, we could call the vote on it with the amended wording to say self-storage establishment only. And that, so that resolution could be passed if it's council's wish. Then later on, when we get to the bylaws and we pass the zoning bylaw, we could say that we're adopting the bylaw as amended.
Okay. All right. So I'm not sure I want to read the motion as it stands. I mean, as it stands, but basically what we're doing is saying to permit self-storage and not the other uses within the highway commercial C2 zone. All of those councillors in favor of the amended wording.
We just need a mover and a seconder, I
Oh,
believe.
sorry, mover and seconder first. Yes. Councillor Heffernan and Deputy Mayor Brennan. And now we'll call a vote on the amended or the changed wording. Any opposed? And that is carried. Okay. Whew. Thank you for your patience. That was long and tricky at times. All righty. Number 10.3, which is zoning bylaw amendment 7/2020-22524 Van Eck. The agent is Mr. Brian Erbschot. The purpose and effect of this zoning bylaw amendment is to rezone the remnant farm parcel from the agricultural A1 zone to agricultural no residence A3 zone, and the proposed non-farm parcel from the agricultural A1 zone to surplus resident SR2. Somebody's not on mute. Thank you. This is related to an application for consent B21/19, which was conditionally granted subject to, amongst other matters, an approved zoning bylaw amendment. So there were no other comments that were received by the clerk that were not included in the report. And I would ask again, Marion, to give the review of the planning report, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this application is very similar to the application we heard earlier tonight to rezone the subject lands as a condition of consent is being fulfilled as a result of a surplus farm dwelling severance. The retained parcel would be rezoned to the agricultural no residences zone that would prohibit any future residences on the property. Additionally, the parcel with the dwelling would be rezoned to a surplus residence. The application was circulated internally to staff, and they have no concerns with this rezoning. The St. Clair Region Conservation Authority did review this application. They note that there are some regulated lands on this on the retained land, and they don't have any concerns with the rezoning as it does not affect the regulated lands. So as a result, planning staff recommend that this application be approved.
Thank you. Mr. Erbschot, would you like to speak to the application at all?
Hello?
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 Fran?
Hi.
Hi,
This
would
is
you like
Fran.
to, yes, would you like to speak to the application at all?
Unfortunately, Brian wasn't able to attend the meeting this evening, but we don't have any further comments to add to the application.
Alrighty, thank you very much then. In that case, I'll ask, does council have any questions of the applicant and or staff? Seeing none, then the motion before us is that the zoning bylaw amendment application, ZBA 7/2020, filed by Brian Erbschot on behalf of John Guy Erbschot for the severed and retained lands of consent application B2119 in order to implement the severance of a surplus farm residence be approved. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Shipley and Councillor Heffernan, all in favor? Pardon me, all those opposed? Opposed? We have 2 opposed, and that motion is carried. All right, so that takes care of that. Moving on to number 8.4. Sorry, that's the old one. 10.4. We have the zoning bylaw amendment 10/2020 for 85 Queen Street. The applicant is 1934553 Ontario Incorporated, and the agent is Casey Glinchicki of Zelina Priamo. The purpose and effect of this zoning bylaw amendment application is to extend the temporary use provision on the subject lands to permit a contractor's yard or shop on the lot for a period not to exceed 3 years. The contractor's yard or shop will be removed upon the expiration of the temporary use provision. The current temporary zoning provision expires on June 24th, 2020. We have received comments since the publishing of the planning report from neighborhood residents Brian and Donna Snyder. These comments were distributed to council in advance of tonight's meeting for their information and consideration. So at this time, I'd like to ask Marion, our planner, to please give a report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So as you had mentioned, the purpose of this application is to extend the temporary use provision for a period of up to 3 years for that existing landscaping business at 85 Queen Street. This site is located just north of Glendon Drive and on the east side of Queen Street. It's just over 10 acres in area and abuts institutional uses, including the Kamoka Wellness Center. Additionally, there are some current and future residential lands located to the west, north, and east of this site. Currently, the lands are being used for residential purposes. There is a single detached dwelling on the property, which is leased and not associated with the business, and as well as the contractor's yard dedicated for the landscaping business. We were also advised by the applicant that there is a small ancillary structure on the property for the storage of equipment for the business, but for the purposes of this application, no new structures or buildings are proposed. The designation on the property is medium density residential within the Middlesex Center official plan, and is also within special policy areas 22 and 23. And these policy areas simply permit additional uses such as parks and recreational or village center purposes, which are compatible with the existing area. The site is also zoned existing use. So staff consider this landscaping business as a contractor's yard or shop, which is defined in the zoning bylaw. And this is typically found in and more suitable for industrial areas. So going back to the original application, you may recall back in January, council did approve this temporary use for 18 months on the property, and it is set to expire next month. During this period, over the last year and a half, we were advised by the applicant that they have searched for suitable sites within the municipality to relocate to, but have been unable to find one that's more appropriate for their business. So while the county OP generally supports, official plans generally supports economic development and a variety of uses, including commercial and industrial uses within settlement areas like Kamoka and Kilworth, the Middlesex Center official plan anticipates that this site be transitioned to medium density residential, which is more compatible with the existing surrounding area. Additionally, the official plan also provides criteria for the municipality to consider when using the temporary use bylaw. This criteria includes compatibility, access and parking, traffic, conformity with the official plan, and adequacy of services. Planning staff note that compatibility and conformity are our major concerns, as we'd like to see the site meet the intent of the official plan and transition to medium density residential uses in the future. So this application was circulated to municipal staff, who note that they do not support an extension of 3 years, but recommend a shorter extension would be appropriate, such as 6 to 12 months. We also received confirmation from the Conservation Authority that they don't have any concerns with this proposal. As mentioned, we did receive one letter from the public, which is seen in attachment 3. To quickly summarize their concerns, they have issues with traffic impacts, noise, and hours of operation. However, they are not necessarily in disagreement with the proposed extension, as long as those issues can be addressed and the applicant is in compliance with other municipal bylaws, such as the noise bylaw. Additionally, we did receive the letter this morning from a neighbor who was also concerned about noise from heavy equipment, traffic, and industrial uses on the site. However, if an extension is granted, they would recommend an extension of 6 months. So upon review of this extension for 3 years, planning staff are of the opinion that the proposed use is not in conformity with the official plan, and there's generally concern about compatibility with the surrounding area. However, this planning position has not changed since the previous report that was before council in January 2019. However, council can consider the opinion of the applicant and residents and determine if a shorter time period may be more appropriate and still allow for the transition of the land to meet the goals of the official plan.
Thank you very much for that report then. And I'm very sorry, Casey Kolchucky of Zelenka Priamo, are you there? Would you like to speak to this?
Yes, I am here. Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council and staff. I hope everyone's keeping well during these interesting times. I'm also joined, I believe, by Laura Murphy on a separate line. I believe she is also present as well, and she may speak after I. Okay, perfect. I'll start off by saying it was our expectation to not be here tonight. We felt that the 18-month granted to us in January of 2019 would have provided us with ample time to relocate Kevlar Landscaping to a suitable site within Middlesex Center successfully. Laura and Kevin sought out alternative sites immediately following the passing of the temporary use, and they were met with several hurdles and obstacles in their search, mainly the lack of zoned land within Middlesex Center. Upon doing a review of the official plan and zoning bylaw myself, I found that the required zoning, which is M2, only apply to a very handful of sites throughout the entire municipality, most of which were occupied by existing businesses not in the position of selling their lands themselves. This left Kevin and Laura with a second option, which is to find lands designated for employment that they may be able to rezone into the M2 category. This also proved difficult as a lot of the employment land designations fell across large agricultural parcels, either currently zoned for agricultural uses and not exactly in a position to be shovel ready, given the fact that they would be subject to draft plan of subdivision applications, rezoning applications, site plan applications, and then site servicing and construction of roadways. So the financial commitment to bring some of the current employment lands that are designated within Middlesex Center to be development ready is quite significant and not within the budget of a landscaping firm. Fast forward, obviously the last couple of months have been have been a whirlwind for everybody in the country. Kevlar had to shutter, obviously, their business for the last couple of months and have only been able to get back to business over the last course of weeks. So their financial books have kind of been thrown into disarray, as well as the real estate market, which has, we've seen a significant depletion in stock as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic crisis. So suitable sites that Kevin and Laura looked at were also met with financial obstacles in that they were just out of reach financially in order to bring them up to speed to what they were needing to operate their business on a day-to-day basis. We understand from talking with planning that not necessarily as a direct result of this application, but as a result of similar applications, there is an official plan review being undertaken that will look to expand the employment land resources in Middlesex Center. And while we are glad to hear that, we are concerned that the timing of that expansion of employment uses won't line up with us being able to find a viable site to relocate them within Middlesex Center. At this point, we are aware of the neighboring concerns with regards to traffic and noise, and Kevlar has done their utmost to be a good neighbor in this location. They've reduced their fleet of vehicles from 7 trucks down to 4. They've also incorporated a carpooling mechanism into their day-to-day business to minimize the amount of personal vehicles coming to the site in the morning and leaving in the evening. We understand that, you know, there is still the day-to-day noise and operation of the business, but however, it is limited to the morning when the workers gather, load the trucks and leave, and in the evening when they return, unpack, and then head home. With regards to the application before you, we are looking for an extension in the range of 12 to 18 months that will help Kevlar get through the tail ends of this pandemic, hopefully allow the real estate market to rebound, and then for them to successfully relocate either within Middlesex Center through the employment land expansion, hopefully, or alternatively, they will look beyond Middlesex Center at other municipalities for other viable land options if that is ends up being the case. At this time, I'll turn the floor over to Laura to see if to allow her to add any comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Sorry, it's my first phone call Zoom meeting. But thank you everyone for taking the time to listen to our application. I guess for everybody this is an incredibly stressful time, but for us and our family, not only has the moving our business been incredibly stressful, but now not having worked for the last few months has been the cherry on the cake.
Can I just interrupt for 1 second? Sorry, Laura. I think that you have your sound on in the background maybe there, so we're hearing you double time right now.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Is that better now? I just have my phone.
Here, wait, it's me.
Oh. Kevin's on in the background there. That's much better. Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, so I'm super thrilled actually to hear that there's going to be some review of the site or master plan, I guess, for Middlesex Center, not only for our business, but for all of the businesses that are currently running in the community. Unfortunately, we kind of are the lucky ones that are involved in this specific scenario, but I do know that there's hundreds of us. So I'm hoping that with our plea, I guess, for an extension, that in the meantime, there'll be some review and land become available for us. As to what Casey said, we have actually put in several offers on properties to purchase them, and then we put a bit of a due diligence period upon those offers, and they come back and we just can't do it. Either we can't get the zoning, it doesn't have proper zoning, and I guess the most frustrating part is there might be an existing business already running there that's specific to what we need it for as well. So it has been incredibly frustrating. And I guess at this point, we really need to find a permanent home. We cannot afford to move our business just due to the nature of our business. We can't just pick up and move it quickly like you can pack up an office. It would cost us roughly around $50,000 every time we would have to relocate. So to find a temporary fix is really not possible for us financially, but we really need to find a permanent home. So I'm excited that you are reviewing that master plan, and hopefully there'll be some more opportunities for us to jump into the market and settle down permanently. So I don't really have any arguments other than I really hope that we can appreciate sort of the timeline for us. We have shopped our hardest. We have a list of offers that I have shown the planning department when we had a past meeting, and we just need some more time.
Okay, thank you, Laura. I'll go to council next. Are there questions of the applicants or planners? Councillor Heffernan. Yes, go ahead, please.
Through the mayor, this question is either for Casey or Laura, but the property that you're presently using is about 10 acres. And I'm just wondering, how much do you actually need? Like, how much are you looking for? Do you need
so we need roughly 2 acres. Right now we are not occupying the full 10 acres. We just have a shop space and a small area for storage. It's like basically the size of a 3-car garage is what we are using. And then the rest of it is still used as what it was before, which was nothing. It's just vacant land at the moment. So certainly I would say 1 acre would be on the small side, but we would require 2 acres, and a gravy on top would be if we could find 3 acres.
Okay, thank you.
Are there other questions of the applicant? Councillor Shipley.
Just a quick question for Casey, I guess, through the mayor. Casey, you said that you were looking for something 12 to 18 months. However, the recommendation, you said 3 years. So what is it you are looking for here?
Certainly. The application was for 3 years. For temporary zones, we always ask for the moon. 3 years is the maximum that you can get through temporary zones, but we recognize in response to the council's previous decision of 18 months that the realistic outcome of tonight's meeting from a request would be somewhere in the 12 to 18 month frame, but we always frame temporary use extensions to 3 years just in case we get lucky and the horseshoes hit the pin.
Thank you. Are there other questions?
Hello.
Oh, I don't see you. I'm sorry. Your picture's gone, but we can hear you. Go ahead, Councillor Arts.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know what I hit, but my picture. I agree with.
There you are.
There. I agree with the 12 months, like especially with everything's been going on with small businesses and this COVID stuff. And I know we'd be well into our official plan by now too if it wasn't for that. So I'm in favor of a 12 months extension.
Okay.
May I make a comment, Madam Mayor?
Okay.
Sorry, I actually forgot to mention, I guess what's incredibly important is we are quite obviously a seasonal business. And I realize that I'm shooting for the stars here, but if we at any chance could come up with a compromise on timeline for moving our business during the absolute peak, we only have like a 5-month window where we are actively running our business, and to have to try and figure out a move during that active time is incredibly challenging. However, I realize any time we are grateful for, but if at all possible to be moving at the end of our busiest season would be a miracle, and we would be so grateful that it didn't interrupt our business and all of our staff from having to work.
Okay, thank you. I saw Councillor Scott and Councillor Silva after you're done, Councillor Scott.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, my thoughts on this are probably the 18 months might work out much better for them, being that they are in business, and it'll buy them a little bit more time. Our new official plan, I think that we've went ahead and hired some folks to get rolling with that. They're estimating it to be in a year. So maybe with 18 months that year, they maybe have 6 months to look around, or a little bit of time to look around if some of the lands do get rezoned appropriately for them in the official plan. So I'm thinking that 18 months isn't a bad idea.
And Councillor Silva?
That's actually what I was going to say as well. So I would concur with Councillor Scott. I've seen Kevin and Laura around a lot. I've talked to them about other things besides this, but I know that they do really care about the community. They live in the area. I'm sure that they're doing at least almost everything they can to minimize noise and comply with bylaws and all that. An additional 18-month would actually grant them a total of 3 years. So, and given everything that's going on, I was just doing some quick searching. Lots of businesses are going up for sale right now, probably mostly due to the financial hardships imposed by the pandemic. So I would also suggest that an 18-month, one last time, hopefully, 18-month extension, temporary use extension on the existing 18-month extension would be appropriate, especially given the fact that, this is exactly the wrong time for them to be looking in a lot of ways. They'd have all this winter and then, into fall and winter 2021. Hopefully it's done and done and over with by then, but give them a little extra time, and like I said, total of 3 years, and hopefully that's the end of that.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else? Councillor, Deputy Mayor Brennan, then Councillor Shipley.
Yeah, I'm just kind of thinking, I'm not sure what's going to change. Like, I realize with the COVID-19, there may be more places coming up for sale or that, but I think they had 18 months. They wanted 3 years. We gave them 18 months and said, here you are, find a place. And I really struggle with why they couldn't find something in 18 months. There should have been something out there. They're looking for a 2-acre parcel. If we wanted to give them 3 years, we should have given 3 years when we last talked about it last in January 2019. I think we indicated at that time we felt some of us only wanted to give them a year at that point in time, and we did extend 18 months. So myself, I'm really not in favor of extending this any further. Thank you.
Councillor Shipley.
And through the mayor to Laura Casey, it doesn't matter. Just to clarify then, there's no snow plowing operations out of this business at all, because I know most landscaping people hang plows in their truck and run all winter. So I just want to confirm that is the way it is.
Yes, no, we do have snow plows. They are put into storage throughout the summer months. And then they are put back on November the 1st.
So they run out of this facility also then?
Yes, but only when there's a snowstorm.
Okay, thank you.
Well, if there are no other questions of the applicant or staff, then what is your wish? We have, I think, at least 3 options on the table here. A motion? Councillor Silva?
That zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 1020, etc., to extend temporary use provision in order to permit a contractor's yard or shop for up to 18 months be approved.
So I take you move that.
Yes, please.
And a seconder? Okay, Councillor Scott. And does it make I can see all your hands. I'll ask those in favor of this, and then I'll just double check. So anyone who supports the 18 months, we need a show of hands now. 3.
Councillor Arts is missing.
There we are. Yeah, that's what's wrong. I'm searching here. Councillor Arts, are you in favor of 18 months? Oh, there you are again. Okay, so
Sorry, my picture.
Yeah, that's okay. So that motion is carried then. Opposed to zone, yeah, we've got it. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. So the motion was for 18 months. Oh yeah, sorry, Councillor Scott, I still got your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment to Laura and them too. That I don't know if they've checked out the Delaware area, but I'd invite them to do that because we'd welcome them there too. You know what I mean? And there is some lands that might be suitable for that.
Yes, thank you very much. We just most recently looked at a parcel. It was $1 million for 1 acre, and we still would have to rezone and apply for that, so, and build our shop. So that's an incredibly overwhelming expense for a small business, but thank you. We are going to continue to look as hard as we can.
Okay, so that, oh, sorry, Councillor Arts, you have a question?
I guess a comment. If this comes back again in 18 months, I'll say no.
Oh, thank you very much.
I mean, for an extension again.
So at this,
clarify what I said. Sorry. If they come back in 18 months for another extension, then I'll say no.
okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So now we have to rise out of public meeting. Just let me get it. I've got 2 things here. So the motion before us now is that council do now close the public meeting and go back into regular council meeting at 8:14 p.m. I'll move Councillor Silva and Councillor Scott. All any opposed to that? And that is carried. Thank you. So as I recall, I think the only thing we have left are bylaws. Am I right, clerk? I think that was, I didn't miss anything now. We have the minutes done.
Yes, I just would like to get some clarification from our planners, however.
Oh, yes.
We do not have the zoning bylaw on the agenda today for the application that was just passed, as the planners had recommended. It was denied. So should we bring that, Marion, would we bring that bylaw to the next meeting, or how should we handle that?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I believe you can bring it through to the next meeting, but is the issue of having the bylaw on hand?
No, I do have it. It's just not included on the agenda. So I guess we could add it to the agenda, and it would be bylaw 043. So what I would need to have is actually an addition to the agenda to have the zoning bylaw number 2020-043 added to the agenda so that it could be considered and passed this evening.
Councillor Silva and seconder, Councillor Heffernan. Any opposed? Deputy, oh, are you voting? Deputy Mayor, was that a seconding motion? No, that was, you're opposed to?
No, that was just a motion to second the meeting.
Okay, all right, yeah, we're good. 1, 2.
Okay. So we'll now consider bylaw 2020-043, which is a zoning bylaw amendment to bylaw 2005-005 amendment for ZBA 10-2020.
And we need a mover then for that, right?
Yes, we'll ask for a mover to for all the bylaws, 12.1 through to 12.7 now.
Okay, yeah, so now we are looking at bylaws 37 through 43 inclusive. Councillor Silva and Councillor Scott. Are there any opposed to that? Seeing none, that is carried then. And finally, we need to have motion that Council for the Municipality of Middlesex Centre adjourns the May 27th, 2020 Emergency Council meeting at 8:17 p.m. And that would be Councillor Silva and Councillor Heffernan. Any opposed? Seeing none, then the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much for that. Few bumps in the road, but I think we'll get the hang of this. Good night, all.